Simon Hicks.
They'll loosen up that line. You won't see 11 players within 5 yards of that body.
I think I mentioned, a bludgeoning or something like that. That's what they came out and did.
7 state championships since 2014.
I tell you what, for those young men, there's no better feeling right now.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another week, another edition of Fyffe Focus, the podcast. I'm Adam Ward alongside Drew Sims, Greg Mears, and Jeremy Johnson. The crew, most of you, as you have learned by now, we are having to rotate in and out as best we can. Jonathan Bartlett, unable to be with us this week due to a work-related situation. So you get to deal with us for the four voices that you normally hear on a Football Friday night. We've got a jam-packed episode in store for you. We can't wait to tell you all about it. But first and foremost, I want to invite you to follow us on our socials, whether it's on the Facebook page, that's facebook.com/Red Devil Radio Show, youtube.com /the @ symbol. You have to use the @ symbol, Red Devil Radio Show. I think that's because without the @ symbol, the other Red Devil Radio Show has been taken. I think that's why that is. So we have to use the @ on Twitter or X or whatever it's called lately. You've got @Red Devils Fun 927. And we are now on Spotify. If you missed that info last week, we are now on Spotify. All you got to do is search Fyffe Focus, the podcast. You have to use the semicolon. It makes it a little bit easier. But Fyffe Focus, the podcast. So you don't get the video side there. But if you're traveling, you can turn us on Spotify and listen to each episode of the podcast. The first two are currently uploaded. So if you haven't gone back and watched or listened to the first two, stop what you're doing. Go back and catch up. Now, they don't really all tie in. It's a different episode each week, however you want to do it. But I promise it's great content. You're not going to want to miss it. Now, for the big announcement of the evening. And this one is, again, courtesy of Greg Mears down there, who, by the way, now has a pair of his own Bluetooth headphones. Congratulations, Greg.
Whoa. I'm trying to become I'm just a simple caveman. This technology scares me.
Welcome to the 21st century, Greg.
You are learning, my friend. But the big news comes from our buddy Greg. Fyffe Focus, the podcast, I am pleased to announce, is now presented by Froggy Freeze. That's right. Froggy Freeze is the new official title sponsor of Fyffe Focus, the podcast. We could not be more happy to have them on. Let me just tell you about Froggy Freeze a little bit here. First of all, they are at every Fyffe home game on Football Friday nights. And then these same folks turn around on Saturday morning when Fyffe is playing a Pee Wee game at home. I'm not the only one getting up after a late Friday night at the ballpark. I'm getting up early and going back and doing the PA for Pee Wees. And Froggy Freeze and those folks are right there with us. There are times, especially at the start of the season, where it gets deadgum hot in that press box. And I've got me a student runner, if you will, that I'll say, hey, here's $2, here's $3. I even got generous last year and said, here's $10. Go buy everybody in this booth an icy from Froggy Freeze, a shaved ice, because it is hot in here. Froggy Freeze is locally owned by 2 retired educators that cover 3 generations of Fyffe high school graduates. They're fully licensed, insured. They're updated on all their health permits. They're Serve Safe certified. And guess what? They can be anywhere in multiple places at the same time because they have 3 different trailers to take with them. They'll cover pretty much any sporting event, a church event, club event, family function, school, business, whatever you need. As we mentioned, they always set up at the Fyffe football games. They're also setting up this year at Fyffe Rec softball, t-ball. One I've never heard, Wii ball. I don't know. Do you play that on the Wii, Nintendo Wii system? I don't know what Wii ball is, but that's what they set up for. They set up for the baseball home games as well. They serve schools in Jackson and DeKalb counties. And boy, they've got 35 flavors of shaved ice. And by the way, when it gets cold, they don't pack it up and go home and stay home for the winter. They're not like bears that go hibernate during the wintertime. They bring out the hot chocolate, the spiced cider, and coffee in cold weather. So they're there year round. I got to ask you guys, JJ, what's your favorite flavor of shaved ice?
Look, I'm pretty simple. I like cherry, grape, those two. I'm not exotic in any way, so I just keep it simple.
Okay, Greg, what about you?
Man, I'm going pina colada so I can pretend I'm on the beach in the sun. People try to push me back in the water.
Drew, what about yourself?
Wedding cake.
Ooh, all right, okay.
Mm.
I'm a strawberry banana guy. I love a good strawberry banana, and I don't know what it is. If I can get strawberry banana in almost anything, I'm going that route. Sometimes I add a little bit of cream too. I'll spend that extra 50 cents, $1. Sometimes whoever's got, I'll get that extra cream in there. But I got to tell you, these folks make some of the best shaved ice you're ever going to have. I stay away from it during the Friday night football game only because I have to talk constantly on the radio and I don't need my mouth freezing up. But when halftime hits of those Pee Wee games and I don't have to do anything because the cheerleaders take over, I'm usually, especially in the hot weather, I'm diving into one of those shaved ice. We had a lightning delay in one of those games too. That provided an opportunity. On the other note of this, by the way, I'm basically giving you a lot of the same notes that I was given from the folks at Froggy Freeze. And one of the things they passed on to me was they're lifelong friends of Greg's. Confirm or deny, Greg?
Oh, yeah. Close to 50 years now.
Wow.
Oh, you're telling your age.
I know. That's why I'm saying close to 50.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I met Billy probably when I was 12, 13 maybe.
Wow.
Wow. Well, Miss Johnson was also a high school teacher of none other than Jeremy Johnson's during his time at North Sand Mountain. JJ, tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, not only that, but Levon was actually my PE teacher as well. He coached girls basketball up there. So, yeah, they're good folks. I've always thought a lot. I had more interaction with Miss Johnson in high school years with English, and I loved all my English teachers that I had there. And but Miss Johnson, she was awesome. I don't want to admit to the number of books that I didn't read that we were supposed to read, but she was a great teacher. Spent time at Northeast actually, so I've always thought a lot of them, and they, a good example of what an educator does, and they have an impact on people, and they both did for me. So,
well, I enjoy hearing things like that. Well, let me just tell you, folks, as we get ready to move on, give the folks at Froggy Freeze a try. If you've never had any of their products that they offer, not just cold items as well, but like we said, during when fall is transitioning to wintertime, whatever, and it gets cold outside at those ball games, you need to warm up hot chocolate, some cider, maybe you want some coffee. You need to visit with our friends at Froggy Freeze. You need to get them if you're having a church function, whatever it may be, a business function. Give our friends at Froggy Freeze a try. They will make a way to get to you. They are affordable. They're easy to talk with. They're friendly folks. They're going to make everything they're going to do everything they can do to make it right and do things the right way for you. That's our friends over at Froggy Freeze, bringing you as the official sponsor of Fight Focus, the podcast. Now, let's tell you what's coming up on this episode. We're going to talk football, of course. That's kind of generally what we do as a radio crew, but it's going to take a little different turn here this episode as we talk. 2014 was the first team to do it, as in the first team to win a championship. But is 2020 the best team to do it? And also along that same line, what makes a championship team special? And Drew Sims is going to be able to answer that for us. Also coming up down the line in the podcast, we're going to be joined by special guest Tucker Wilkes, the 2023 2A Lineman of the Year. He will join the show coming up a little bit later on. And for our 10 minutes of crap, we were talking about this and discussing this actually leading up to just a few hours before we hit record. We are incorporating the 10 minutes of crap and the So What's on Your Mind segments together because that's really, they're almost one and the same. But it also will provide us more of an opportunity to open up a little bit and allow more opinions and thoughts to get out there. We are also going to have a snippet. I'm not going to play the entire 10 minutes of the original 10 minutes of crap because A, it's probably too long for this, and B, I probably shouldn't play the whole thing. But why not? Kind of give you an idea of where this came from. And also, Drew and Greg are going to help us out with what's coming up next at 5. So we've got a jam-packed episode lined up for you. Let's talk championships. All right. Of course, everybody knows Fyffe played in a championship game down in Birmingham at the Old Gray Lady Legion Field which at one point was going to be tore down, and then all of a sudden they've changed their mind and they're trying to renovate the field and do some things at least to keep the old grade lady still standing. But in 2007, it was a heartbreaking loss to Leroy, but it was the first time Fyffe had ever played for a state championship. And if you've seen the documentary from I think it's the AHSAA, maybe it's the radio network. I forget who done it. I know it's in connection with the High School Athletic Association, but guys like Harold and Coach Edge and several on there were like, we didn't, we were happy to get there, but we didn't know if we'd ever get there again. And then Drew in 2014, your sophomore season, correct?
Yeah.
You guys not only reached the mountaintop, but you're able to slay Goliath against Elba in that one and sort of almost battle back the demons of the 07 loss. So take me through what that was, winning the first, before we even get into the almost comparative talk.
Well, I think, the first being the first, there's a lot of, there's a whole town that, is riding on you to, get the job done. And especially teams that go down like Fyffe did in 07 and lose, to come back. You almost have that added pressure, I would say. And I think Coach Benefield probably felt that pressure more than we did. It's pretty evident.
I'll add to why that is, by the way, because a lot of you guys, none of you guys were on the team, obviously, in 14, going back to 07. Some of you were, might have been like little water boys. Coach Benefield's boys were running around, hanging around the program, but that's about it. And of course, none of you played in that 07 game.
Right. 07, I was 8.
8.
So, and then, it's pretty evident watching that game that there was a lot of nerves and jitters in that first quarter. Kind of had some uncharacteristic mistakes, which we don't talk about it much anymore because Fyffe has been so much. But really, that's what you expect out of a championship game. You can just throw everything else, throw the last 14 games out the window, because you never know what you're going to get. So that's pretty much what it was. Yeah. We knew Elba was super athletic. And part of the reason we changed our whole offense in 2014 was because we were not as athletic as them anyway. So,
well, Coach Benefield will say the same thing on that point, by the way.
Well, yeah. Look at me now. You mean to tell me that I won 2 state championships and in high school? Come on.
Well, you played for 3, so you played for 3, won 2 of them.
Yeah.
But one thing, if I remember from that game correctly, and it has been it's going to be 10 calendar years by the time the end of the 24 season rather gets done and over with. It's 11 seasons though ago now. If I remember from that game, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was it not a pass to Dakota Newsom coming out of his tight end position that sort of opened that up a little bit for Fyffe and kind of finally got you guys to settle in somewhere in that early second quarter, I think it was? I may be wrong on the time, but I think that was the play.
I can't remember. It was some kind of pass. I can't remember exactly who caught it, but it was definitely a pass, and it was kind of one of those like, oh man, they never pass it, and now they can. That kind of maybe, we talk about punches and counter punches. That was maybe a punch that kind of threw Elba off a little bit.
Yeah.
Because then we threw it more that game than we did, any other game the rest of the year too. So.
Right. Well, JJ, I wanted to get your thoughts on this too, because a year or two ago, we sort of tried to do something during the off season where we were kind of throwing it back to some olden days. And one episode, I don't even remember what we called the segments, but one episode, Greg had to really make me go back into the archives and get some old footage. But you were, I think, if I remember right, it was your episode that focused specifically on that 2014 game against Elba. And one of the things that you pointed out was the play of someone like Austin Coots, who at the time, of course, was not the biggest and tallest in stature, didn't have the 4.4 speed of someone like an Ardarius Stewart that we had seen 2 years prior. But he was one of those that played above his head, played to a next level standard.
Yeah, that always had stuck out to me, and I think they made an effort. Elba did to try to to use the word pick on Austin, because I think they felt like the height advantage, maybe that athletic advantage was there. And I sat beside Austin's dad during the game, and so when it came down the wire, and if I'm remembering this all correctly, one of the plays toward the end that really sealed the game was Austin. That pass breakup in the end zone, I believe. And his dad, hey, and I know, man, when you got a kid out there, his dad, the relief. I thought he was going to hug me. He was so happy, because that's your kid, and, they got to do their own thing, but there's a certain level of pride there. That's my boy. And you're going to swell up when they do great like he did. Yeah. Then you think about it on the flip side. I don't want my kid to be the kid that screws everything up, and costs the game. But I do remember that play that play particular, and he had a good game as far as what I remember defending those passes and those times that they tried to take advantage of him. So really was cool.
Back corner of the end zone. Are we remembering that the same
back
way?
Corner. Yeah.
Back corner of the end zone.
I've got a photo somewhere. I think I was going through my phone. I think it was from one of the news outlets. You guys probably seen it, but it is a still shot photo at the height of that pass breakup, and it's pretty cool looking to look at it. And then Austin, he really did. I think that adrenaline was probably pumping too. But it's a cool photo. If I were him, I'd have that sucker framed and, have it in my office or in a little space. And I'd be like, yeah, it's me.
I wouldn't doubt if he does. Austin, if you're watching the podcast, let us know. Comment below. Let us know if you do have it. Yeah, that'd be cool to know. Montgomery Catholic fans may want to turn away if they're watching this, because I'm going to bring up that sore spot in 2020 by asking, is 2020's team the first time ever a Fyffe football team goes into 3A? Are they the best of the 7 championship teams now, even after the 2023 team? Are they the best team to do it? I can't ask Coach Benefield that, because he does not like to compare. And he might get on to me later if he ever watches this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is the 2020 team the best team to win a championship at Fyffe, knowing everything that they went through? They had to run the gauntlet of what was 3A, especially playing against somebody like Piedmont in a torrential downpour that I think we could all agree, if it wasn't for the rain, that game might go the other way. And Drew was out in it. Greg and JJ weren't with the crew yet. You guys were another year away or so from joining us. But when you look at the 2020 team and you go back to that championship game and the adversity that they found that you don't normally find in a championship game, not coming from the opposition, mind you, that's how I'll say it. Are they the best to do it?
I think.
Well, go ahead, Drew. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, if you're looking at just straight up talent, probably. They had 2 players that still play D1 football.
Mm-hmm. Ike Rowell and Brody Dalton.
Right. Talent wise, yeah. I think locker room plays a lot, and I wasn't part of that locker room, so I can't say, because a locker room plays a big part of how mentally tough a team is. Mm-hmm. Obviously they're pretty mentally tough, because they came back and won, a championship. But I say talent wise, yes, but I don't. There's a lot of variables in that too. So I'm not going to say if you throw them out there against any Fyffe team ever, they'd run away with it. I'm not sure.
Go ahead, JJ.
Well, I'll speak to that a little bit, and really mainly because not because I was in there, but I knew those kids because I graduated with Micah, they graduated with my son. That group of seniors that year, and I know there were other players that were underclassmen that played a huge role in that. That group of seniors, when they were little fellers, I'll call them that, they were special. You could tell it. You could tell it when they played baseball. You could tell it when they played basketball. You could tell it when they played football. And I think there was just something about that team. So locker room wise, without me knowing anything, I dare say that was a really strong, mentally tough group of kids that were close.
Good
That
point.
had talent. They definitely had talent. But that whole senior class, even the kids like my son that played on the back, they were all pretty close together as far as seniors and athletes in general. So it was a really special year for Fyffe for sure.
But Greg, 2020, as Drew mentioned there, you've still got two athletes who are playing D1 ball off of that, who are ginormously bigger now than what they were during their playing days. I've seen both of them.
That's hard to believe.
I'm like, wow. But when you take into consideration all that they went through, the almost immediate reaction from the fan base was this is the best. Now that some time has passed, do you think folks still feel that way? Do you feel that way, or do you have another opinion on that?
Well, I don't know if I have an opinion because it's so hard to tell that. And unfortunately, like you said, I wasn't in town then. I didn't get to see the Piedmont game. I did get to go to the championship game. And
But
for
you
most of
listened
these
to me,
teams,
didn't you?
I listened to you on Piedmont. I sure
Okay.
did.
Okay. Thank you.
I sure
Thank you.
did.
Thank you.
And
Credit where credit's
y'all
due.
were a little confusing on that last play. I'm just going to say.
That's
I
probably
didn't
my
know what
fault.
was happening.
Thanks. I've been working on that.
But anyway, it's so hard to tell. But again, did they play the most talented teams probably in their way? Yeah, that Piedmont team and Montgomery Academy team were fabulous teams. JJ's talking about the closeness. They were in the state semifinals for baseball. They were one series away, actually one game away, and they ran into Phil Campbell, who eventually won that. That was a very, very good team. I was out there for two of those games too. So, it's so hard to tell. But I kind of like Drew said, I don't know who would beat who, but they probably overcame the most.
Drew, you're the only one outside of winning Pee Wee championships from anybody on this panel. You're the only one on this whole show that has rings to display or wear proudly when you go out somewhere and you represent Fyffe. What makes winning a championship special, specifically what makes a championship team special? And I'm encompassing all 7 championship teams with this, mind you, not just 14 or 20, but what makes a championship team special?
Well, I think we all spoke about it a little bit. It really starts in the locker room. They got to be mentally tough to some degree because unless you're just that much better than everybody else, which none of these 5 teams have been, unless you're just that much better than everybody else, you're gonna get hit in the mouth by somebody, and you got to be able to fight through that. Really, the leadership from the top, from the coach is cannot be overstated. I'll say that. We mentioned 14. Maybe kind of felt like the weight was on him a little bit. Coach Benefield, that is. Maybe felt like it was his last chance, maybe to win. I don't know.
Right.
But just sits then, and you can tell the composure and attitude of, hey, we've been here before. We know what we're doing. We're going to play our game. Just kind of permeates the whole team, whole program as a whole. And now it doesn't phase any of them. Even if the kids have never played in one before, it doesn't even phase them anymore. So it's hard to put into words, really, but it starts with Coach Benefield.
We're joined at this point now in the podcast by our first guest for Fyffe Focus, the podcast ever. And I said it 2 weeks ago during episode 1. We've got several of these young men we want to get on. We're trying to expand and get on as many young people at Fyffe as possible, due to the fact that we're just trying to make it better as Fyffe Focus expands. But we could not go by, that is, another day without getting on the 2A Lineman of the Year for 2023's, also a 3-time state champion, 3-time all-state football player, courtesy of the ASWA, the Alabama Sports Writers Association. He's all county, all area. And by the way, he's been doing a lot of this since the 8th grade. It's none other than Tucker Wilkes. Tucker, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I know you've had baseball tonight, so we won't keep you long, but thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Tuck, I want to jump into it right away. The 2023 season obviously did not start the way that you guys had hoped for, but my goodness, the transformation that you and your teammates made in 2023 over the course of the next 14 games, not only to get to the state championship, but to I can't say dominate, because it was one heck of a ball game, but you guys certainly dramatically improved from that week 1 game all the way to Reeltown. Just give me your thoughts on the season as a whole and how much you guys sort of matured.
It all really started the Monday after the Geraldine game. Coach took all the linemen down there to the sleds, and he brought a chair with him, and we just we did board drills, like 2 hours, and then after that, the linemen, we really started getting better, and the backs they started running harder, and everything sort of just clicked all right there after that.
As a leader of this football team, no doubt, and I'm going to let the other guys jump in a moment, but as a leader of this football team, especially now as you prepare for your senior year upcoming in 2024, your final season, what do you hope to take away and learn from the 2023 campaign and take it with you into next season, so you start strong instead of having almost a rinse and repeat kind of situation?
Sort of just remembering all the losses and how they feel, and you don't want to feel it again. So really just pushing extra in the fourth quarter so it don't happen.
Yeah. By the way, for those who have already forgotten in the last 30 seconds, you're the 2A Lineman of the Year, as voted on by the ASWA. And, oh, by the way, you were also down there with your teammate Logan Anderson, who was up for Back of the Year in 2A. What was that like for you?
It's a pretty crazy experience. We went last year, but neither one of us won. So I didn't think I was going to win when I went. I didn't even have a speech ready. So I sort of had to figure that out as I went up there, but it was great. It would have been way worse if Logan wasn't with me. I don't know. It's nerve-wracking, but it was fun. I had a great time.
Guys, jump on in here with a question or two for Tuck.
Tucker, which one do you enjoy playing more, offensive line or defensive line? Got a favorite?
Defensive line, 100%.
Got you. Like going and hitting headhunter.
Yes.
Who's next?
All right. I'll Tucker. So, 2 long seasons, ended well the way you wanted to end. So how long of a break do you take for yourself to I know everybody's beat up, everybody's probably a little sore, not hurt necessarily, but just how much of a break do you take and go, you know what, I just need a minute here?
Usually after the season's over with, I take probably a week or two, and then I'll go work out, but nothing real heavy, just sort of getting back into it. And then when we come back after Christmas break, coach hits us pretty hard.
Starts the cycle all over, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, you know that Drew up here, he knows a little bit about that. He was in that process a few years before you came along. Drew, jump on in here with a question for Tuck.
Well, my question is more about next season. So, you make, I'm sure, as Tucker, you make the jump to 3A. What has Coach said anything about the season, or is he just kind of been hush hush about it?
He hasn't really said a whole lot. Just same old stuff he always says. Just play each game.
I know exactly what he means. Y'all may not know, but I know exactly what he means.
I want to jump right in as we spend another minute or two with Tucker Wilkes, the 2A Lineman of the Year for 2023-2024. And Tuck, two quick things. Speaking of Coach Benefield, one is I was a little shocked to hear a story about you that I had not been made aware of. And apparently Coach hadn't been made aware of up until he had sent you to get your shoulder checked out. And something about a broken collarbone that you maybe played through or pushed through do you feel comfortable talking about that? What happened there?
I'm not entirely sure. It was either last year against Red Bay or this year against North Sand Mountain. I guess I broke it or something. It hurt when it first happened, either time, because I remember both plays that it could have been. But the next play it went away, so I just kept playing. And then against Pisgah, I went to Dr. Sparks to get my wrist checked out. And while I was down there, I said something about my shoulder. It was giving me a little bit of problems. And he's like, "You ever broke the collarbone?" I was like, "I don't think so." So he went and got it x-rayed, and it turned out that it was broke. Well, it's pretty much healed up by then. It had been broke.
You are one tough hombre, young man. I'm just going to tell you that straight up. The other one, and to speak to the toughness, by the way, we'll stick with Red Bay, saying that you had to play through all those playoff games like that. Yeah, that's what we'll say.
Sounds better.
Yeah, there you go.
But to
That's
add
right.
on to the toughness moniker, I'm told that there's been times in the weight room, whether it's in the off season or just when you guys get in there and you're just hitting it hard in the weights. I'm told there's been times they've had to drag you off, that you're the strongest guy on the team, and they've had to hold you back. Is that true?
Sometimes. Sometimes I get a little carried away with how much weight I think I can do, and coach has to stop me before I hurt myself. But that's sort of true, yes.
Well, Tuck, I promise you we'd only keep you a few minutes, but I want to tell you, first of all, congratulations on winning 2A Lineman of the Year. That is a big accomplishment. And like you said, to not only be honored by getting to be there now 2 years in a row, but actually getting to win it. I'm going to tell you something that maybe Coach did not tell you. And I don't think he'd mind me sharing this now that you've won it. He told me that that same day that he told me about your shoulder, he told me that he was immediately turning around and calling the folks down at the ASWA and telling them that if they did not only nominate you, but give you the award, that they were absolutely stupid. Okay. I think that's the word he used. If I'm remembering correct, they were absolutely stupid. And he would go down there and personally handle each one of them, because he felt like after the toughness you displayed going through all of that there's nobody tougher. So I'm telling you right now, you not only have the confidence of your coach, but he knows exactly where you stand and what you are worthy of. So kudos to you, Tuck. Congratulations on winning Lineman of the Year.
Thank you.
That's Tucker Wilkes, ladies and gentlemen. Tucker, thanks for spending a few minutes with us on the podcast. We look forward to actually getting to talk with you for your specific Fyffe focus as we get into the 2024 season, and to learn a whole lot more about you. And just appreciate your time, Tucker.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
As we get into our 10 minutes of crap. 10 minutes of crap. And again, we are sort of combining a segment that we introduced last week into the 10 minutes of crap. The So What's on Your Mind is going to now be a part of this. And instead of trying to plan this, we're going to kind of go off the basis of So What's on Your Mind. But I thought it would be, as we're 3 episodes in now, I thought it would be poignant, if that's the right word to use, to give the folks at least about a 90-second snippet of what the original 10 minutes of crap was. And
I'm scared.
Folks, you can comment and ask us about it if you want to. We're not going to answer any questions about it, at least not on camera. You are more than welcome to ask. We are not obligated to answer, okay? Let me just say that. But this is from 2 years ago, I think. Just wait until another episode or two goes by. I'm going to play another snippet that we did get from this season involving an Atlanta Braves game that Greg, you weren't there for. And JJ promised me a hat if things went south, and unfortunately, I didn't get to get the hat. So,
Oh yeah.
I got that on audio. But I'm going to play you guys the 10 minutes of crap preview, a 90-second preview of an actual 10-minute clip that I have of us bouncing back and forth. One moment we're talking about, okay, this week's game is so and so, and if we win, we got it. We might, and in the playoffs start, we might play this people. To talking about all of a sudden just jumping ship, talking fantasy football, talking about going and seeing a movie. Let me just play it for you, okay? Let me just hit play right here, and you guys will understand what I'm trying to tell you.
Don't get us in trouble, Adam.
Bev, stop this man.
All right, here we go. Let's see what we can come up with here.
T squared. Don't steal that's my point, Adam. I'm going to talk about how terrible their tackling is. T squared. Terrible tackling. Terrible tackling. It's terrible.
Terribly enough for the turtle club.
Terrible tackling.
You think these boys don't have any arms?
They got alligator arms, that's for sure. Skillet hands. The catch for the touchdown from Dobbins.
That was a good throw.
Good throw.
Hit him right in the freaking stomach. Get this thing away from my face. I can hear my breathing.
I can't tell if it's you or Greg.
Yeah, it's usually me.
It's Greg. It's Greg.
It's always Greg.
Heavy breathing.
I can't even sit here and not say winded.
Greg says, "What are you wearing?"
Did anybody else go watch Where the Crawdads Sing? It's not a terrible movie. Maybe it's a good date night movie.
The paddles! Quick, get the paddles!
Clear!
I'm gonna hurt myself.
We got to go to freaking Red Bay. That sucks. In 3, 2, 1. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Long Ridge. It's not Long Ridge West Stadium anymore. Dang it, boy. It's been that way for 2 years. I got you so used to saying that for years. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Oh boy.
So there's you 90 seconds of the original 10 minutes of crap with a little tag for our buddies over at Ace Auto Sales on the end of that. But the original 10 minutes of crap, and again, there might be a piece or two in there that when we're not on the mic, folks, you might want to ask the two eldest bunch of the crew some questions about what was being talked about. But with that being said, you kind of get an idea, a background of how a typical Monday night around here goes, where you gather up while they're in. It was this office last season. In fact, in previous times spent in the living room, we share a meal. After the meal's over, we watch Monday Night Football for the most part, by the way. After the meal's over, we'll watch some film and we'll plug in the headphones, turn on the recorder, and I'll let it rip. And when we finally get the giggles out of us, we're ready to record some segments for pregame. But usually we get some of the greatest, stupidest comments that's ever going to come out of our mouths. At least, let me rephrase that. Probably not the stupidest that we've ever said, but because old one-liner down there's come up with some good stuff. With
Stuff that we say that's not meant to be. That's not meant.
Not all of it can be repeated. We will say that.
Not meant to be repeated.
That's exactly right. That's why that's only a preview, and that was edited down. With that being said, JJ, I started with you last week, so Greg, I'm going to start with you this week. You get the first opportunity, 2 minutes, to tell us what's on your mind to begin our 10 minutes of crap segment, and your time will start now.
Let's talk about the state of basketball in this football state that is Alabama. Man, we've got Alabama, Auburn, both playing fantastic basketball. Alabama, maybe every other game. We've learned this weekend they don't like to play defense. Like Coach Oates said, there was questions about our defense. There is no more questions about it. It doesn't exist. So he's an honest man.
Yeah, he put it to rest.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely put it to rest on defense. But then you got Sanford down there in Buckyball. They're 22-4, I think, guys.
Yeah.
Tearing up that Southern League. One of their losses was to Purdue out of the three. So again, you talk about Alabama, and you talk about, you think about football. But man, this is another great opportunity. I think it was about 10 years ago when Bama made the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
That UAB was real good, and it was
Mm-hmm.
UAB and just Bama at that point in time. But now you've got everybody playing good. It's fantastic, man. I'm emotionally more involved in basketball than I am football.
And
to be quite
UAB's
honest
not
with you.
terrible either.
Nope.
They're 18-9.
They got
And
a
I
chance.
think that-
Obviously, unfortunately, they're in a one bid team, so they'll have to win the tournament, or one bid, conference. They'll have to win the tournament.
With Memphis.
Yeah.
And FAU.
Yeah, Final Four team.
But they did beat FAU the other night. UAB did in overtime.
But I just think it's fantastic. A few years ago, I guess Sankey got with all the ADs and said they wanted to do something about basketball in the SEC, and they've done it, man. It's a great time right now.
All right. Well, I guess Greg's not going to use his last 20 seconds, so I'll jump in here and say a couple of things, because I actually got a couple of people told me that we kind of crapped on Auburn a little much last week, and this came from an Auburn person, so took it with a grain of salt. But with that being said, I do want to give credit to Coach Pearl and Auburn for a couple of things really quick. First of all, I have come to admire Coach Pearl a little bit in something that he does off the court via his basketball program and the university that Outlive organization, I guess would be the best way to call it, that he has set up. It's spelled AULIVE or AUTLIVE with the Auburn University, colors on there. And it's about cancer and what and how they're trying to do their part in helping raise funds for cancer research and things. And I'm a little attached to that, as having lost a couple of family members in the last few years to cancer. And they had a thing that they had set up where Bruce Pearl thought he was going into just a regular everyday press conference. And instead of any member of the press being in there, it was members of and survivors of folks who had been impacted by the Outlive movement. And if the survivor couldn't be there or maybe there was someone who was still getting treatment but being impacted by the Outlive foundation, organization, whatever, they would send someone in their stead to thank Coach Pearl and to show pictures. Hey, what you've done is that if nothing else, has it lifted the spirits of this patient. So first, if you haven't seen it, by the way, that's on like Twitter and Facebook and probably on YouTube and everywhere else. It's easy to find. Just go follow the thread back to Auburn social media, basketball social media a few weeks ago that came out. So I want to say I admire Coach Pearl for that. But also, to Greg's point, Auburn has developed, and in part it's because of a small arena, but Auburn has developed one of the most dangerous home court advantages in the entire country in the game of basketball, in football country. I watch an Auburn game, especially when Alabama goes down there. I think I texted you guys before the game when Alabama went to Auburn on that Wednesday night, and I said Auburn's going to win by at least 10. That place is intimidating, and for what that has become, I think that they call it the jungle. For what that's become, Greg, and I'm just giving kudos to Auburn here because it is such an intimidating place, and that's what every school and fan base in the country wants.
Yeah, I've been to those games down there. I've been to Neville. It was Auburn Coliseum to begin with. Now it's Neville. But I moved to Columbus, Georgia in 2012, and I went to about the first 3 or 4 Bama games there. And unfortunately, I don't know if I saw us come within 20, and that's when neither team was really good. Mm-hmm. But they are just, it's got to be the closest thing to Cameron Indoor that there is out there. I think I heard him say that last week on the when game day was there. But it's the student section is right on top of you from the floor up, runs the entire length of the court. I was there one game when Cam Newton was in the student section when he'd come back after that year. Oh my God. You could really honestly not hear yourself. So, man, I hope we use the money for some NIL, but I hope Bama gets that arena built pretty soon because it's a fun place to be unless you're a Bama fan and getting beat by 40.
Well, I'll say this too. I checked into Duke UNC tickets earlier this season because I thought I might try to do something special for my little brother in his senior season of basketball.
No.
They
If
got a
Auburn
mortgage.
ever goes into that stratosphere of basketball, and I know they want to, they're not blue bloods. Okay, I don't care what their colors are. They're not blue bloods of basketball, despite what they claim. But if they were to ever get in that stratosphere, nobody's ever going to be able to pay for a game to go to Auburn again unless you're in the in crowd or know somebody. Because the cheapest ticket that I could get to Duke UNC, sitting almost right in the very rafters at the tip top of Cameron Indoor Stadium or whatever they call it, was $800. $800. The most expensive ticket, 13 grand to see Duke
Hey,
UNC.
Auburn Bama tickets were like that. Don't think you could get in on the secondary market for less than $6.
Jeez.
I mean, it's crazy down there now.
Jeez. Well, listen, to your point, I did not know about Sanford. That's awesome. I remember them playing an early game against Purdue, and I think, didn't they give Purdue a game of it?
For about a half, and then Purdue, became
Zach
Purdue.
Edey.
Yeah, it was their first game, too. First game of the year, Sanford's first game. And then they turned around and lost to maybe Virginia Tech, somebody. Then they ran off about 20 in a row.
Yeah.
And like I said, they're just blazing that Southern, which is a good little conference, too.
So right here, Bucky McMillan. Bucky McMillan. If you watched his Mountain Brook teams who went on a run, they played defense, and that's my rant tonight. Is teams watch the NBA All-Star game. That was
hold on. Am I supposed to start your 2 minutes? Is this your 2 minutes?
I need 5 at least. No,
let him go.
No.
Take off. Just take off.
No,
just take off.
No. So that really it irritates me because everybody, the teams that win championships, you wait and see the Final Four teams that come out of that field of collegiate teams are going to be 2 or 4 teams that are playing good, solid, physical defense. And I'm Alabama fan, but I'm gonna crap on them. Hey, look. What year is Nate Oates in? And he still can't figure out how to recruit kids that play defense. This has been a problem every year. I love Alabama. I hope they prove me wrong, and I will admit it. But they're soft. They don't play good defense. They hinge everything on the three-point shot, which drives me insane because at some point in that run, you're not going to shoot good. And when they don't shoot good, they don't have a clue. He can't draw up plays. He can't generate any type of offense outside of penetration and shooting threes. And look, I hope he proves me wrong. I just that philosophy of basketball will not win a national championship. And if you'll look at the high school teams, jumping over real quick, high school basketball, we got local teams. If you look at the teams that are in the Final Four in DeKalb County, Ider won today by a significant margin. They're in the championship game in 2A girls. They play defense. They get after it. Plainview girls play defense, get after it, can score. All right. Geraldine, and I love this, played Plainview 6 times this year and beat them 3 times. And why? Because they are talented and they play defense. And I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there because people don't give him enough credit. Neil Thrash is an assistant for Coach Jeremy Smith. And I'm going to tell you that those kids, that's Neil Thrash. That's a Neil Thrash mark on that team because he knows how to defend Plainview. Yeah. And you get kids that are willing to defend and get after it, they'll stand a great chance. And they're talented. They've been together. Those kids been playing Jackson Colvin. We called his name a lot in football. He's a good basketball player, man. Yeah, big kid. But Oates, back to that. Recruit different players. The ones you're recruiting don't defend at a high level, and they're not willing to. And he's going to have to recruit different players. Maybe we don't get 5 stars. Maybe we get 2 or 3 stars that have that juice and got that dog in them like they talk about that'll get out there and actually earn that hard hat. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I'm going to Photoshop him a pulpit in there. But no, I'm
It drives
joking.
me nuts. Drives me nuts.
Now, Drew, so with that, you get your 2 minutes on the clock here, buddy.
I'm going to go to college football. So Josh Pate tweeted something earlier, or was this morning, that I thought was really interesting. I want to see what you guys thought. So he said two things that he believes are baked into the ongoing college football talks, college football playoff talks. Big Ten and SEC are prepared to expand again. I agree. One or both will restructure into 4 divisions and look to construct internal conference title mechanisms that either are part of the college football playoff, i.e., conference semifinals plus conference title games, or will produce a conference champ to compete in a college football playoff, possibly reduced in size if they take the more conferences away. So, but the reason he says that is because signing off on any college football playoff format that devalues their regular season or conference title games is a non-starter for the SEC and the Big Ten. And then think about it this way. We've been trying to think that the college football playoff can't begin until conference titles are decided. So there's some new models that could change that. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think it's got to change, and I think the Big Ten and the SEC will lead the way with it. But it's going to be who's the one strong enough to get rid of the good old boy bowl season, because that's what everybody comes back to. You can't do away with these bowls. You can't do away with these bowls. Well, I think the SEC and the Big Ten are headed toward an NFL model, and like you're saying, they may be conference championships, conference semifinals, and then you play your college Super Bowl between the Big Ten and the SEC. So that, I mean, again, I love college football, but man, these bowls lately, I used to just couldn't wait for them to start. Now it's like I'm watching Middle North Texas nuns play, somebody else over here, deaf and blind school, and it's like, what happened? When do these games not mean anything anymore? Those nuns are tough. You gotta watch them. They'll wrap you on the knuckle. It hurts.
Yes. One thing, it got diluted because there's so many of them now.
Yeah.
So there's so many of them, and then you take into account the playoff affected it. Then they try to keep the bowls alive and making them a part of the playoff, so which it further devalues the bowls outside of the orange and the cotton and the peach and fiesta and what have you. So they're going to change. I think Greg's right. I agree with him. I think you'll see a Big Ten SEC push, and it's going to change football. Let's be honest. Is there any other teams outside of those 2 leagues that?
Not anymore.
Florida
State.
Yeah, ACC. Throw ACC in there.
But the Pac-12 is virtually resolved.
But I think the ACC is fleeting. I think if you take away Florida State, Clemson's not it anymore, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, even Florida State's trying to leave.
Yeah. Trying to get out. Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I'll say this. I think it's funny that Drew brings up this, because I just had this conversation late last week with some folks, and you guys are almost saying exactly the same thing that got talked about in my conversation, in that there's a few of these bowl games that I would say I would love to see stick around. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and it's not necessarily just because of the game that it was, but the gimmicks that they had with it. I enjoyed that. I enjoy the Duke's Mayo Bowl, even though a lot of folks think it's gross to dump the winning coach in a bath of mayo.
I would throw that game to not have to get dumped in mayo.
and then, of course, I don't mind something like the Bahamas Bowl getting us started. I don't like the fact that we have so many stinking bowl games, and that we got, I think it was to Thanksgiving weekend, and we were talking about we only have 30-something, 40-something teams that are bowl eligible, and we have like 80-something slots to fill.
Like they had,
and we're having to reward 5 and 7 teams. A 5 and 7 team, or even in my opinion, a 6 and 6 team, ought not be going to a bowl game. It's not a winning record.
Well, they had to accept which I think is the right move. They accepted James Madison and Jacksonville State because they had to.
Had to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But even then, that only filled 2 more slots.
Right.
Which they should have done, by the way, in the first place. There never
Right.
should have
There
been any
should have never been a
consternation about
question.
it.
Yeah. Let me
But-
ask y'all this too. I mean,
Okay.
again, talking about too many games. What team out there goes, hot damn, we get to go to Birmingham, or hot damn, we're going to Shreveport? I mean,
Hey,
is it really?
Montgomery.
Is it really rewarding? Yeah, Montgomery.
You don't want to go to
Montgomery.
Shreveport.
Listen, the state of Alabama, we're all from Alabama. The state of Alabama has 2 bowl games. Actually, 3.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 bowl games.
Yeah. The one in South Alabama, the Poinsettia Bowl in Montgomery, and the Birmingham Bowl.
And
We don't need 3
we'll
bowl
go ahead-
games.
We'll go ahead and say Auburn is a normal participant in the Birmingham Bowl. So, I mean, they just could drive a few hours.
There's your weekly
Saturday.
Auburn slander.
Hey, I'm not apologizing for it.
Shots fired.
If you hear this and you get mad, you just got to get over it because I'm not apologizing.
But to your point, to Drew's point, there's a lot of these bowl games that are not truly premier destinations that anybody like you say just gets excited to go to. I mean, if you're a football purist or enthusiastic person of football like I can be, I wouldn't mind going to Boise, Idaho, and seeing the blue field because it's the only one that would be neat. But you don't want to go to a bowl game just to see a blue field. You don't, and especially in December in Boise, Idaho, when it's freezing cold. I know those people up there are used to it, but you bring in teams that are coming from places where they're not used to it. Like you said, I'm not trying to crap on our great. I'm not trying to crap on our great state here in Alabama, but we're not necessarily a premier state for a major bowl game by no stretch. I've been to the Birmingham Bowl when South Carolina played South Florida, and I wholeheartedly rooted for the Bulls because I wanted Steve Spurrier to get his butt kicked. That game went to overtime. I sat in the freezing cold wind and watched as the Bulls pulled it out in overtime. I did have fun, admittedly, but it was in the Old Gray Lady. It was crapped out. And frankly, I could have sat anywhere I wanted. It didn't matter what the ticket said. Nobody showed up. It's not a revenue producer for the city of Birmingham. The Poinsettia Bowl is not for Montgomery. South Alabama's bowl game is not a revenue producer. I don't get why we have them. I get certain places you go to, New Orleans. New Orleans has got 2 bowl games that I know of.
Yeah.
The Sugar Bowl and the Carriers Bowl.
I can understand if we have, more bowl games if they're part of something else, right?
Yeah.
So like if they expand it on down and say, okay, well, these are all part of the college football playoff. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
That's good. Because basically right now, the Birmingham Bowl, what would you, if you were a college football fan for Troy and you won the Sun Belt and you got to go to Birmingham to play the Birmingham Bowl, would you go if your team had a chance to play for a national championship, or would you be more willing to go if they're just going to play the Birmingham Bowl?
Yeah. Right. You'd definitely go. You'd want to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Be a packed stadium for sure. There's no meaning, like you're saying. There's no meaning to it, and it's just, And now you got these kids that don't want to play. They don't want to play.
Yeah.
Because it's meaningless. There's no point to it in their mind, and they're not committed to team or things the way that players used to be. So yeah, I'm with you. Hey, however, that new era Pinstripe Bowl, I'm telling you, I don't want to get rid of that.
Hey, where is the Pop-Tart Bowl at, by the way?
I don't remember. I was just looking up some other information, so I'll look that up in just a second. But we have 134 total FBS schools now that play collegiate football. Only 2 of them, by the way, are now left as independent. That would be Notre Dame and UConn. They're the only 2 independents left. All the academies, the service academies, are now in a conference. But 134 FBS football programs and 43 bowl games. That's insane. And
everybody gets a trophy.
Yep.
Participation trophy.
The Pop-Tarts Bowl was in Miami. It was at a Camping World Stadium.
Yeah.
How many bowl games have they got down there? They got to have at least 3 or 4.
At least
The Orange Bowl's down there
Yeah.
at Hard Rock.
All right. I'm going to take 30 seconds here instead of 2 minutes. I'm only going to take 30 seconds here and we'll move on and get ready to wrap this thing up. But what's on my mind is totally unsports related. It's not even personal related per se. I want to give a bit of a kudos, if you will. In the last couple of weeks, something that's been on my mind because I've experienced a lot of this where I've gone and I've been pleasantly surprised by it. Whether I'm stopping into a store or pumping some gas or just out and about going to work, whatever I'm doing, I have encountered a lot of young people here lately that work in these places, whether they're part-timers, full-time young people in their 20s trying to, work their way through college, whatever, who have provided some exceptional customer service. And here lately, I know, Greg, you were one that had to deal with some pretty pitiful customer service in your industry, if we're being blunt. But here in the last couple of weeks, I wanted to give kudos to those people. I can't remember the names. I know one of the experiences that's coming to mind is when I stopped in at Geraldine Dollar General. I had to get a couple of quick things on the way home, and I stopped in over there. And I want to say the young man was named Tyler. I may be wrong on that, so don't quote me, but provided some excellent quality customer service. And by that, I just mean, hello, how are you doing today? Have you had a great day? If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. And even when I'm done and I've checked out and I'm getting ready to leave, hey, I appreciate you. You have a great day. That kind of stuff goes a long, long way. I got some background music going. I love it. So that being said, you young people who are watching this, take a note. Whether you're going to college, you're getting into the workforce, maybe you're going into the military, either way, you're beginning the process of starting into the real world. Take a note and be mindful of what you're doing at your job when you're dealing with people, when you're dealing with someone trying to talk on a podcast. JJ, no, when you're dealing with folks, because it matters, A, how you treat people, and B, it matters towards your job and what kind of reviews you get, how people think of you. Will people come back and be return customers? Will they eat at your restaurant again, Greg? That sort of thing. You know what I'm talking about, Greg. You probably have had to have that conversation multiple times in your years with your employees. It matters. And I've experienced some good out of it. So I want to make sure I say that again. I've experienced some good customer service the last few weeks, and I wanted to make sure that got put out there. But young people, take a note. It does matter. So pick up the manners. Learn from your mamas and daddies, your head coaches. Mamas and daddies, teach your kids to have good manners. Teach your kids what it means to even just talk with people. Say, hello, how are you doing today? How can I help you? How can I be of service? It goes a long stinking way. I'm done with that.
Amen. Amen. Bless him, Lord.
Adam's
brother.
Adam's the one that
Preach.
needs the pulpit.
Preach it, brother.
I appreciate you, my organist.
JJ, let me see that shirt. What you got?
Let me see it.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all right. Birmingham Vulcans, for the young two guys on here, the defunct WFL, World Football League. What, 74 was it, Greg? 73 or 74? It was the Birmingham Americans.
74, 75, yeah. The
Yeah,
Birmingham Americans.
Birmingham Americans, Birmingham Vulcans, and then they went out of business. My Birmingham American shirt is at home. By the way, we need to talk about the UFL at some point. Kind of getting excited about that. I think it's a good thing.
I think we're going to try and go to a game before a certain life event happens.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, while JJ was explaining his shirt, it reminded me, Greg, explain you're wearing one of these every week. This is gonna get typed up on this segment sheet next week. For Greg to explain what shirt he's wearing. The shirt of the week is what we'll call it. Greg, tell us your shirt of the week.
This is the one that started it all. Broken Bow, Oklahoma, was out kayaking with some good friends, Grant Dade and his lovely wife. When you're in your 50s, do not try to go off a rope swing in the middle of a river. Bad idea. Broken fingers every time. I'm in Walmart buying a split, and I look over and I see the shirt, the Broken Bow Savages, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. How un-PC is that nowadays? And that's the name of the local high school team It's the Broken Bow Oklahoma Savages.
I
So
love
this
it.
was the first one. This one started it all right here.
I love it.
Nice.
I love it. It's going to go on the sheet for next week as a new segment. Maybe we'll get it sponsored. The shirt of the week presented by whatever.
Where in the world is Greg?
Somebody needs to sponsor that 10 minutes of crap.
There you go.
I'm telling you.
There you go.
They should. That'd be a good investment. I will say it because
Yeah.
we're gonna turn it loose here before long.
Oh yeah. Well, that's where we're starting to gear towards that now. With that being said, before we close it out, let's tell the folks what's upcoming at Fyffe these days. Of course, if you need to know about kindergarten pre-K registration, that is still going on. You can go back and watch our previous episodes to get that info that you need, or you can go on the school's Facebook page. You can go also to decabk12.org. Again, that's decabk12.org to get that info. But there's some other bit of news that we have to share with you, and I want Drew, you take over now and start us off here.
Okay, so really, we just want to wish a group of young ladies at Fyffe congrats. So first to juniors, Kaylin Collins and Sadie Pitts. They were selected to represent Fyffe at the Sand Mountain Electric Co-op Youth Tour competition at the local level. So also Sadie was selected as one of the top 4 in DeKalb County for the Montgomery Youth Tour in March, where she's going to compete, for a trip to Washington D.C. for nationals. And then we also want to send congrats out to Katie Edge, senior, for being selected as Fyffe's DAR Good Citizen. That's Daughters of the American Revolution, for those who don't know. Katie is now invited to participate in the scholarship portion of the program. So that consists of like a personal statement and an essay. Obviously, she doesn't have to participate in that if she doesn't want to, but she has that opportunity. So again, congrats to Kaylin Collins, Sadie Pitts, and Katie Edge.
Big congratulations, ladies. Big congratulations. And Greg, I know there was a slight change to this last bit of info that we were made aware of sort of last minute here.
Yeah, the girls softball kind of threw us a curveball, if you will. We thought their first game was tonight, but they actually played a game earlier in the week. But however, their next game coming up is going to be at North Sand Mountain. They're going to go on the road. There'll be first pitch will be at 4:30 up there, playing the Thunder and Herd, and that's on Tuesday, March 5th. So if you get a chance, go up there and support those girls. See what a 60-mile-an-hour ball coming at you from 40 feet looks like. Go give those girls a gander. But baseball does have a home game they play tonight. The Tigers of Cedar Bluff will come visit in the Fyffe. First pitch is at 5 o'clock tonight at the Fyffe Field. Busy weekend for the boys. They turn around and play at 4:30 tomorrow against Valley Head. And then they go on the road Saturday down to Whitesburg Christian for an early 11 a.m. first pitch. So get out, support these guys, support these girls. They're working hard too. And again, it's high school sports. It's fabulous to watch these kids play because they love the game.
You've been watching, you've been listening to Fyffe Focus, presented by, and we're proud to say it again, we are presented by Froggy Freeze. And again, if you need to get a hold of Froggy Freeze, we've got all the information showing up for you right at the bottom of the screen there. Visit and chat with our friends at Froggy Freeze. You can get them involved for your church function, your work function, family event, ball team function, whatever it is. Get with our friends at Froggy Freeze. You will not regret it. Gentlemen, as always, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Look forward, hopefully, to getting us all on next week, all 5 of us. And we're going to continue to talk and try to get with other special guests as we continue on this journey of this podcast. I look forward to it each and every week. It's certainly a better way to start a work week on a Monday night to record these things than it is any other thing else to do just about it. So I appreciate you guys coming on with us. You guys have a great evening. Take care, gentlemen. For Fyffe Focus, Drew Sims, Jeremy Johnson, and Greg Mears, we bid you adieu, everyone. So long. May God bless you. And as always, go Big Red.